Hey, welcome. This is Sergio. I'm managing partner at Allsikes, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some of our processes and insights on the industry so you can find remote talent yourself in case that's what you're looking for. So, if you want to expand your team in South America, you just got into the right place. So, let's get to it. In case you didn't know, we actually have more than 30 years of combined experience here at Allsikes from all our members. Brian Bolivar, our lead engineer, he has been working remotely for more than 15 years. He's a full stack developer with emphasis on iOS, and he's also the CEO of Coder Labs. Raxel, she's a therapist, she's a professional psychologist, and she has worked for more than 4 years in the BPO industry, which Maria, our co founder, and myself have also worked on. We range from logistics to marketing to IT to pretty much a wide array of fields that you can actually work in when you're doing remote work. Um, so we have successfully transitioned this new business. Just FYI, we just like to share that information with you as well. And of course, we've had been in multiple industries, so we know a little bit about everything that is going on right now. So let's get to it. So the first thing you might be wondering, in case you haven't done it before, is it why you should choose Latin America over other places. Now, I'm not saying other places do not have their benefits or disadvantages. I'm just going to be laying out what are the advantages of hiring in Latin America over those other places. And the number one thing that it's obvious to pretty much everyone is that compared to Western Europe or some parts of Eastern Europe, Latin America it's actually quite inexpensive in terms of cost and in terms of paying for freelance jobs, for gigs or contractors. So it's pretty much lower salaries, and there are special hotspots in the region where you will be able to get even more competitive salaries compared to the lowest prices there are in, for example, India or the Philippines. Uh, the second reason you might be interested in looking into South America it's because of the same time zone. United States and pretty much the whole continent, the whole subcontinent of Latin America, share the same time zones. I am based out of Colombia. I'm Colombian myself. Half of the year, 6 months, it's going to be Central Time. The other 6 months is going to be Eastern Time. So for me, there's pretty much no difference. I can work 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and the people in the United States are pretty much going to be on the same rhythm. We're going to be going to lunch at the same time. We're going to be resting at the same time. So it's pretty beneficial when it comes to synchronizing activities and when it comes to communication. We're going to be awake and sleeping at the same times. And number three, it's a cultural proximity, which some people might not be aware of. But since we shared a lot of our history, for example, especially Mexico, who share a border with the United States, they're going to be closer in culture and the way that they do business and the way they behave. Most of the time, I studied international business at the university. My whole pensum was based out of the way that Americans do business, for example. So we're used to know how what is appropriate or what is not appropriate when it comes to business, based out of the rules that you guys set and based out of the culture that you guys have. That's theoretical, of course, but when it comes to practice, most of the countries in South America have really close ties with United States. So people are really used to do business with Americans. People are really used to um, share with Americans as you guys are close to us. You guys are often come here as a tourist, or most of Latin Americans have the opportunity to um, be close to the culture through TV, through media, and we consume a lot of that as well. So there's a closer connection than there might be perhaps with other cultures who are more reluctant to accepting the American culture or are just too far away to be influenced by the American culture itself. When it comes to the options that you have, and this is really important, and I want you to know this, there are more options just outside of contractor, which is what we offer here at Allsikes. And we're quite candid about it when people reach out to us. We might tell our lead or our qualified customer, well, not a qualified customer, but we might tell the person that we're talking to, Okay, maybe the task that you need to be done, you don't need a contractor for this, or you don't need someone full time, you don't need anyone part time to be performing these tasks. You might want to go with a freelancer instead. It's going to be cheaper because it's not going to be often. Um, so we're going to be talking now. What are those options that you have? And we're going to be putting names to it because you already know them, but you just don't know perhaps what are the benefits, what are the disadvantages, and what the name actually means. So let's start with the freelance. That it's the most common one. It's the most used one. It's available pretty much everywhere. A freelancer, it's actually someone who is able to perform a task in exchange of a amount of money. Let's say. Now you put the terms and conditions, of course. There are freelancers who are gonna work asynchronously with you. So most of the freelancers are going to be doing the task without your supervision. They're going to be performing the task whenever they want to perform it, and then they are going to just give you a deadline for when it's going to be done. They're going to send it to you, and there's going to be back and forth in communication. That's okay if what you're doing is not requiring a lot of your attention, when you don't need a lot of managing over what's being done, when you don't need really fast communication, and specifically when the task that it's being performed is not really recurrent over time, or it's not as important over time. So that's when you go with a freelancer. Most of the time, people do freelancing, for example, when they want to transcribe most of their cards given at a convention. So let's say you went to a convention, you get a 500 business cards, you take pictures of it, you ask someone online to just upload them and add them to your CRM, which is pretty an easy task. That's something a freelancer can do. It's just going to be once. Or the other end of the spectrum, when you want a freelancer, it's when it's something so specialized that you do not have anyone on your team able to do it. But again, it's just something that's going to happen once. For example, video editing. Let's say you went to an event, you recorded something high quality, or you have some recordings, you have some of the videos that you already have from your business and you want to repurpose them. A video editor can actually do a great job adjusting image, performing multiple tasks with the content that you're providing to them, and pretty much influence and produce something that is brand new that you can use in social networks, that you can use pretty much anywhere. And that's something, if you need it just once, it's ideal just to hire a freelancer to do it once. um, that's just freelancing. And then there's two types of freelancing. There's freelancing, big one, where you go with big projects that usually take more than 1 week, and you kind of build a relationship with this person. You might hire them over and over in the future, not so many times, but otherwise you're needing a full-time employee or a part-time employee. And there's also gig freelancing, when it's just a simple task like the one I mentioned before about transcribing something. That's pretty easy, that's pretty short, and you just want someone to charge you by the hour and get it done. The other option that you have, it's the staffing agency, which most of you know. So a staffing agency, it's a company who already hired and trained staff, or hired and trained people. Most of the time it's going to be in the Philippines. Some people are going to be hiring in South America as well. Some people in Eastern Europe, some people in Africa. So it's pretty much all over the world. But staffing agencies already have the staff, and they already train them in what you need. So you're gonna reach out to them. You're gonna ask them, okay, this is what I need, and this is the time I need it to. They might give you the opportunity to interview the staff that you're gonna be hiring, that you're gonna be interacting with. Some don't, but you get to choose what, in between the options that they give you. You get to choose who do you want to work with. The problem with staffing agencies is that, number one, they charge per person. So they're going to be influenced, and they're going to be eager to be able to charge more per person. Because at the end of the day, that's their business, right? So the more people they have working for you, the more money they get. That oftentimes doesn't benefit proactiveness that doesn't benefit communication between you and the party. I worked myself on a BPO for about 4 years, and we were disincentivized to create relationships with the people that we work with in the United States, and that is because there's a lot of legal um, requirements, there's a lot of legal nuances to it, but also it's the core business of a staffing agencies to actually get people to or customers to hire more people. It's great. Staffing agencies are actually great, and don't get me wrong, when you want to scale up. So if you need a team that's going to be doing that will be doing repetitive tasks that you don't need much supervision on, you can set KPIs that are pretty straightforward, like metrics that you can check, and you are going to scale up. That's amazing. Go with a staffing agency. If you need 500 people, go with a staffing agency. That's the best way to go. But if you want someone or a group of people that are able to communicate with you, to give you insights, to think by themselves, then you don't want to go with a staffing agency. You might want to go with the contractor or direct hire, which is the one we're going to be talking today. So today we're going to be focusing on contractors or direct hires, which are people that you're going to be paying directly. We're going to be seeing the payment methods later on, but it is as straightforward as just a wire transfer or PayPal submission. Okay. Now that we know that, the question that most of you might have is, where should I hire from in South America? And this chart that I'm showing you right here is the answer to that question. Now, this chart is going to have percentages and it's going to have the name of the countries. You can see Mexico has 69.7%, Argentina has 83.4%. That is not the percentage of the people that speak English in a country. No, that's the quality of the English of the people that speak English living in that country is. So as you can see, Argentina, who has 50 million inhabitants, is the one who has the better English quality. That's why I recommend most of our customers to start sourcing in Argentina most of their positions. It's also, and we're going to see that later, one of the best countries in geopolitical terms because the exchange rate is beneficial in this specific moment compared to other countries. So as you can see here, these are the 5 countries with the best English proficiency. Rated 100% is the way that a scholar would talk. 0% of course is no knowledge in English whatsoever. So you can expect Argentinians, Brazilians, Venezuelans to speak a really good English. Colombians and Mexicans are going to be, you're going to be able to understand, you're going to be able to have conversations with them. You can expect some accent, just as myself. As I'm talking, I'm Colombian and I have a little bit of accent, but you can still understand me. So these are the 5 countries that you should be looking to. And now what we're going to do is that I'm going to show you the nuances of each specific country. What are the benefits of them? What you can find in those countries and what you need to keep in mind if you want to hire there specifically. So let's start with Mexico, which is the closest one to the United States. Mexico is amazing because it has 127 million inhabitants. That's a massive population. And the great thing about having a massive population is that when you run ads in these particular countries, you will see that is massive the amount of people that are going to be applying. Of course, not all of them are going to be qualified candidates, but at least you're going to see a sense of the market, and you will see that a lot of people are proficient in English and have a pretty much decent English. So you have more chances of finding people because there's more people overall. So the number one proud thing about Mexico is that it has similar work culture to the United States. Actually, there's a study that proves that Mexicans work more than the United States in Mexico. So the average working hour in Mexico, it's actually longer. They work more hours per week compared to the United States counterpart. But they do understand the work culture. They do not have as many holidays as other countries, and it's closer to the United States. They are used to doing business with American people. You're gonna get along pretty well. You shared a lot of things in common, especially culture, so it's gonna be quite easy. Number 2 is that the workforce is quite skilled. So it's really easy to find someone who has knowledge on the tools that you're currently using. Just to give you an idea, when we scout for controllers or when we scout for bookkeepers, one of the countries that we go for is Mexico. Mexico has a lot of people that are certified on QuickBooks. Mexico has a lot of people that are certified on Go High Level. Mexico has a lot of people who knows how to use Zapier, who knows how to use Make, who knows how to use ConvertKit. Pretty much all the softwares that you guys use in the United States are softwares that Mexican people know how to use. So it's a great place to find that type of candidate. And third is the geographical proximity. Now, this might not apply to all of you, but in case that you're looking to establish a base camp, in case you're looking to expand your business, Mexico is the closest Spanish speaking country from the United States. So you guys are pretty much together, you share the border, it has 127 million people. If you want to translate your content into Spanish, or if you want to start producing your products, physical products in Mexico, there you have it. You can have somebody in Mexico doing that for you completely remotely and completely easy. The bad thing about Mexico, or it's not really bad, it's something that you need to keep in mind, is that right now, 2024, and since the beginning of the end of the pandemic, Mexico has experienced a strength in their currency. So their currency compared to the US dollar is now stronger than it was before the pandemic. That means that if you were able to find a BA for $1,000 before the pandemic, now you should be paying, or the average market price, it's around 1,500, 1,300 for that same BA with the same skill sets, with the same years of experience, etc. So the strong currency makes it harder, makes it more expensive to find qualified talents in Mexico. And Mexicans themselves, they have higher salary expectations because, well, at the end of the day, they're gonna buy stuff in Mexican pesos, not in US dollars. So they do need more US dollars in order to afford their lifestyle in Mexican pesos. And that's the first thing. And the second thing you need to keep in mind is the competitive job market that is in Mexico right now. There's a lot of people, a lot of industries going to Mexico at the moment to start businesses. Specifically, for example, Tesla is going to open a new factory in Mexico. Then you have plans from Walmart to also open plants in Mexico. So there's a lot of people looking for those jobs, and also Mexican companies are now growing and are now exporting more, just as China is less relevant in terms of economic purchases or imports to the United States. Mexico is taking that place. Apparently, that's what the numbers are showing. So Mexican companies are needing more people, people that speak English, people that know how to use the same systems that we mentioned before, and that are willing to pay the same amount of dollars or closer amount of dollars than what you probably are willing to pay. The difference perhaps is that you are offering them a remote position. Mexican companies might not offer them a remote position, not in all the cases. However, Mexican companies are obliged to pay certain legal, let's say, fees. For example, they're required to pay health, they're required to pay pension, stuff like that, certain benefits to the employee. So that's something that your employee or your potential candidate might be thinking of when you make an offer. The competitive market, job market in Mexico right now, creates a high attrition rate. So candidates are going to be spending less time in a position compared to years before, and they're going to be offered more jobs than they were before. But if you still believe Mexico, it's a great go for your business. If you think that Mexico is what you're needing to for whatever reasons that you might have. The hotspots of Mexico talent are Mexico City, which is one of the biggest cities in Latin America, Monterrey, which is the tech capital of Mexico, and Guadalajara, which is a growing city that it's spurring, and it's pretty much bringing a lot of talent, and a lot of digital nomads are also placing and are also living there because it's less expensive than the other two cities that I mentioned before. So Mexico, great option if you're looking for qualified skills, qualified candidates, qualified talent in the region. But now let's see what Colombia can offer. I'm Colombian myself, and I try not to be biased here, and I'm actually going to be pretty straightforward with you. Um, Colombia has pros, has cons. It's not our favorite country for hiring because we do not necessarily hire many customer service positions, but you will see that there's a lot of benefits to hiring in Colombia. So Colombia has 50 million inhabitants. The currency in Colombia, even though lately it has stabilized, let's say, it's still a weak currency compared to the US dollar. The average salary here in Colombia, it's about 400, $500. So you can expect that if you pay a VA 300 more than the average salary, they might be um, more than satisfied, more than happy in some cases, depending on the skill sets. But overall, Colombia, it's really cheap compared to other options in South America. Um, the other thing that you need to keep in mind is that they are here in Colombia specialized in customer service. So if you're looking to fill a position that it's client facing, that requires patience, that requires people to be able to be kind, to be nice to anyone that they're interacting with, Colombians are probably the best option. And I'm not saying that because I'm Colombian, I'm just saying that because we have the biggest and largest BPOs in the whole continent. BPOs are companies that offer offshore and nearshore services to companies in the United States. Colombian BPOs are mainly for customer service, for, let's say, communication companies, for services like PayPal, for services like DoorDash, those type of services. That's pretty much what we do. There's a lot of customer service positions. There's a lot of track and trace positions in the logistics industry as well. So you can expect Colombians to be able to handle that type of work pressure, that type of workload, and even share with you some of their knowledge that they have gained working in that corporate positions as it can be on a customer service level. Number three is a strong remote culture. Colombians are getting used to working remotely, especially those people that work on BPOs. Most of the younger generations are used to working a BPO as a first job or as a holiday job. So you can expect them to be okay working with you as a contractor, as a freelancer. Actually, there's a lot of freelancers here in Colombia. Not just Colombians, but people who come from other parts of the world just to live here while they're working. Um, the bad thing about hiring in Colombia, which is not bad things, just things that you need to keep in mind again, is infrastructure. Sometimes, depending on the region that people are going to be in, infrastructure might cause issues from time to time. I'll give you a plain and simple example. When I used to work as a VA not so long ago, I had issues with my internet connection every once in a month for some reason that I never get to understand and I never get to solve. However, what we do in those cases where there are infrastructure issues where the internet's not working, we just simply had a backup plan. Like, for example, okay, if the internet doesn't work, I'm just going to use my mobile data, use it as a hotspot, and just connect myself to my computer, or I'm just going to work on the cafe that is 2 blocks away, and that's it. If I had energy or power outage, same story. I would go to the cafe. If the cafe is full, I'll go to supermarket in the restaurant there, which is pretty empty all the time and it's pretty safe. I'm just gonna work there. So those are the backup options. I got a plan B, plan C, and again, it only happens once or twice a month or something like that. and just for 2 3 hours, and then I could come back and I continue working on my home. Another thing to keep in mind when you're hiring in Colombia is that specialized talent is rare. For example, if you're looking for someone who is knowledgeable on Go high level, has Zapier, knows how to use ConvertKit, and knows how to build a Shopify account, maybe it's not a great idea to try and find them in Colombia. There is people that can do it in Colombia, of course, but you will have more luck finding them in other countries like Mexico or Argentina or Brazil. And I'm gonna show you how that's done later. If you're going, if you want to go customer service here in Colombia, and if you want to focus all your efforts in just one city, you should go with Medellin or Bogota. These are the largest cities. Bogota has around 8 million inhabitants just in the city and like 12 millions in the metropolitan area. Medellin has 4 million inhabitants in the city and around 5 millions in the metropolitan area. So those are the cities, the largest cities that you can go to, and you will most likely find talent. Medellin is amazing to find talent with knowledge on IT. You can expect people to know how to use Python. You can expect people to know how to do web development, front end, that type of stuff. It's probably easier to find in Medellin, but you can also go with Bogota, as there's a lot of people there as well. But Medellin usually is better in tech than Bogota. Okay, moving on. This is the only country that I do not recommend hiring out of the 5 countries that I mentioned earlier. You can still do it, and you will see that it has a decent amount of benefits, but it also has a decent amount of things to keep in mind. So, Venezuela has 28 million inhabitants according to the data that you can find online. However, you need to keep in mind that there's a lot of people going out of Venezuela due to the poor conditions that the country is facing. The great thing about Venezuela is that Venezuelans tend to have less or lower salary expectation compared to other parts of the world. You can find a VA that it's willing to work full time for just $800. However, the bad thing about Venezuela is that it's not everywhere in the country, but most of the country it's going to have major infrastructure issues. And I'm not talking about once or twice per month, I'm talking about every single day. You will see that people might not be able to log in because they have power outages, because they have internet issues. Again, it's not the whole country, but it's going to be really hard for you to determine whether or not they're in a city that has those issues. The cost of living in Venezuela, even though salary expectations are low, the cost of living in Venezuela it's higher than Argentina, Colombia, and Mexico. And that is why, and the reason why that is because most of the things that people consume in Venezuela are actually coming from outside of Venezuela and have to be paid in US dollars, making it really, really hard for people to afford a decent living. There's also uncertain geopolitical future. You don't know what's going to happen given that they have a government that it's not really open to show data, that it's not really open for people to criticize them. And most of the specialized talent already left the country. So you will find that people who speak English, who are capable of doing the things that you probably want them to do, they are already outside of Venezuela. They're probably in Colombia, Argentina, Chile, Mexico, or even in the United States. However, if you still want to get yourself a try and try Venezuela, the place you should be aiming to hire is Caracas. Caracas is the largest city. People there still have they still have a quite amount of people that speak English, mainly people that are still in schools or still in universities and they want to get a living, they want to get an extra income. So Caracas is the best place. It doesn't have major infrastructure issues. There are still infrastructure issues depending on the neighborhood they live in. But yeah, Caracas is probably the best option if you want to risk it. Now let's talk about Argentina, that is probably the most beloved country for scouters today. Argentina has 46 million inhabitants. Most of those inhabitants are actually older, or the majority of the country is in the age of work. They're older than 20 years old. And not only that, they're well educated, they have a great level of English, and they're pretty much close culturally to Europe and to the United States. So it's really easy to hire somebody with a great English proficiency out of Argentina. If you're looking for specialized talent, I would recommend you go and find yourself a bookkeeper, a controller, anything financial in Argentina. And I'll tell you why. Most of the people that study every single year in Argentina, the most common major is accounting or economics. So you will be quite full of joy when you find yourself with a lot of CVs of really capable people. Now, I'll be candid with you. When it comes to experience working with US companies in Argentina, most of these Argentinian folks are going to be able to have, or are going to be able to make that cut. They will have experience working with US based companies, but through Argentinian companies. Not so long ago, Argentina was a rich country and they used to have subsidiaries or branches in the United States and in pretty much a lot of other countries. So you can find people who were in charge of those branches in the United States from Argentina. Those are the people that you might be going after. And they are great, they're knowledgeable, they know the things, but remember that was 4 years ago, so they might not be up to date in some things. However, you will be able to find more if you are patient enough and if you know how to look for them. Another great niche in Argentina, it's marketing. There's a lot of great marketing people in Argentina. Unlike the accounting people, they're still working for US based companies. They're pretty much outsourced. There's a lot of freelancers living in Argentina related to marketing and IT. IT is a big niche in Argentina. Most of the biggest IT companies in South America are actually Argentina, and they're still open, they're still running, they still have people, and that people is really amazing. They know how to work. They're one of the best. So you should go to Argentina if you're looking for IT, if you're looking for marketing, if you're looking for bookkeepers. The cost of living in Argentina it's lower compared to the other countries in the region because of the inflation uh, and the currency exchange rate that they have right now. So US dollars are on the rise, meaning that with $1 you can buy more even though there's inflation. The peso is just one of the weakest currencies in the world as of right now. The con of Argentina, that it's not really a con because most of the people are optimistic as of right now, is that there's uncertain geopolitical future. Is a country that most of his history, recent history, has been under the government of a left-wing party and is just now under the government of a libertarian that has been in the position for 1 year, about 1 year so far. So people are uncertain on what's going to happen. However, the economy seems to be getting reactivated, which might be a great thing for Argentinians, but we don't know how's that going to affect the currency exchange and how that's going to look like. So just keep that in mind. It's still, if you offer a competitive salary, you shouldn't be afraid of having any issue. If you want to hire people from Argentina, the number one place it's Buenos Aires. It's a large city, 20 million inhabitants, more or less. It's easy to find anyone in Buenos Aires, but there are also other cities that you can go to, but most of the people are going to be looking for jobs in Buenos Aires anyway, so it's easy if you just post it to Buenos Aires, remote, and anyone in the country is going to be able to apply either way. So Buenos Aires is pretty much the only option. Now let's talk about the giant or the elephant in the room, which is Brazil. It's the largest country in South America. In population and in extension, it has 215 million inhabitants. And I'll be honest with you, I love Brazil. It has a great amount of talent, it has a great amount of people, specifically if you're looking for creative people. So, if you want a designer, video editor, if you want somebody who can help you produce reels, produce content, Brazil is still one of the best places to go to. They have specialized talent in multiple fields, most of them creative fields. But you can also find controllers from Brazil, you can also find IT talent from Brazil. However, when it comes to design, they're more used to following the American path of designing, the American path of how the aesthetics of a product look like, how everything is presented, showcased. Design positions are one of the best options in Brazil. So that's my recommendation. Still, we can find people from other positions. What you need to keep in mind when you're hiring a Brazilian is that as as they are a large country, they will not necessarily be as used to work with American folks as pretty much every other country in the region. Brazil is an enormous country. It has a huge economy. It's one of the largest economies in the world. So they're pretty focused on what they need and their own um, situation, that they rarely look towards the United States or any other country whatsoever. Even though Brazil is one of the largest exporters, keep in mind that Brazil is still one of the largest. Most of those exports that they do are apples, oranges, coffee. It's pretty much commodities. So do not expect they are aware of how things work when it comes to services. And that is to say that sometimes when you work with Brazilians, they might expect to have the same flexibility as they have on a position in Brazil. So you just need to be straightforward at the beginning, saying what are the expectations, what are the time frames, or the work schedule that you want to follow, and they will most likely ask you for a certain amount of vacation time, stuff like that. That it is up to you if you decide or not. However, if you decide to go to Brazil, and if you're willing to surface or to navigate those situations, the hotspots are Sao Paulo, and just keep in mind Sao Paulo is one of the most expensive cities, and Rio de Janeiro. Sao Paulo has 25 million inhabitants, Rio has 12 million. So these are the largest cities. You're going to be able to find a lot of talent there, a lot of people who are really good in English, really good in what they do, especially if it's a creative part of the business. So those are the hotspots in Brazil. Now let's talk about the process. How is it that you should hire someone? And I'm not saying you have to follow this process. I'm just saying this is what we do. This is what works for us. And I'll be candid one more time. This is not even my process. It's not something that we created here at Allsikes at all. It's more of a combination of things that we have seen work in multiple companies that we have worked in. I had the opportunity of working directly with Kasam Aslam. He has been in the remote industry business for more than 15 years. He has hired more than 500 folks remotely. I had the opportunity of hire for him for about 2 years for multiple positions, marketing, finance, BAs as well. So it's mainly the knowledge that I got from him combined with the knowledge that I got myself and the knowledge that my co-founders had as well. So let's get to it. The first thing that you need to keep in mind is, who do you want to hire? If you are sure and if you are certain that you need somebody full-time or part-time, let's think, what is specifically that you need out of them. So most of the candidates or most of the customers that we have had so far, they come to us and they only have a list of things that they want this person to do. But that's just not enough for Navarre creation. The list of tasks that you need, of course, it's essential because that's pretty much the metric that it's going to allow us to know whether you need somebody full-time, part-time, or how much is the workload for that specific position, therefore how much you should be paying or what's the best market value to offer. But there's also something else that you need that is essential, and it's the outcome of such tasks. The tasks themselves only help us know how much you want to pay. The outcome of the task, it's going to help you make the needle go up or down with the additionals. So let's say you want somebody to help you repurpose content, but if we if the outcome of that task is not just the repurpose content, but also use it as a lead magnet to grab more clients, then you're not only looking for somebody with video editing knowledge, you're looking with somebody with video editing knowledge and marketing conversion knowledge, which is a different story. So it's just to clarify what specific needs you actually um, foresee in the future and what is the outcome you want out of these positions. So a list of tasks, the outcome of those tasks is the other point. Then number three, describe your ideal talent based on the tasks and outcomes that you want to have, meaning the skill sets, meaning do you want them to follow orders or do you want them to come back to you and give you other options, not just the ones that you're giving them? That is a really important question. Not all the positions are going to be for followers, not all the positions are going to be for leaders. So you need to keep that in mind. And how is the life of that person going to be affected while working for me? Remember that this is not just a freelance position where they're going to work for you and that's it, and you're going to forget about it after the job is done. No, you have to see this person every single day. You have to interact with this person, or your team is going to interact with this person every single day. So you need to know what type of traits you want them to have in order to be a fit in your culture, in order to be a fit in your team, and in order to be a fit in your business. Once that's done, we create the job posting. If guess you're doing this yourself, based on that, you can use ChatGPT combining all of this to create a job posting that you're going to be using to post on the social, not on the social, on the job boards that we're going to be showing you in a minute. Now, the job posting needs to be specific in all the reasons someone wouldn't want to work with. The thing when you're hiring talent in South America is that everybody wants to work for you, or almost everybody. So you want to be really serious when it comes to having people not to, or disencouraging people to not apply to your position. In one day, on average, we receive 100 applications per position, meaning that most people just want a job, and that's okay. But in this case, if they're reading through the whole thing, they're going to be able to understand and they're going to be able to have expectations that are going to match what we're looking for, and they're just simply going to simplify the whole process of hiring them. Now, once you have a job posting that you're comfortable with and that has everything that you need, you want to post it on job boards. And I'm going to be honest with you, the only job board that I would recommend you to use today, June 2024, it's LinkedIn. And I'll explain why. Because LinkedIn not only has people looking for jobs, like pretty much 90% of job boards, but it also have the whole economy that already has a position, and it's willing to know whether or not there are better options out there. It has been proven in our experience that the talent that is currently employed perform best than the talent that was looking for a job when they were a candidate. So you might want to focus on people who already have a job and might be interesting of doing a career change or just swapping jobs or changing jobs. So LinkedIn, it's a great place to do that. Another thing that LinkedIn has that all of these other places do not have is that LinkedIn lets you post for free. So if you're looking for a job, if you have your company already created within LinkedIn, you can just do a free posting, put it in Argentina, put it in Mexico, whatever you want to put it, and it's going to share that with the public, and it's going to give you at least 10 candidates completely out of charge. So you can get a sense of what the market is looking like with those 10 candidates. If you want to extend it, it's only going to cost you $6 per day to have the advertisement running. That's the minimum. Um, if you do not want to extend it, then you can simply pause it. You can simply cancel it. There's not going to be charge whatsoever. If you don't want to think about it, you can just go get a free assessment with Allsikes, and we can take care of the whole thing for you. But those are the options pretty much. Flex jobs, remote co, remote jobs.io, IO, and Indeed are also great options. But they all have nuances to. Some of them you have to pay. Some of them are going to be only for Argentinian folks. Some of them are just going to be for Mexican folks. So it's really tedious to be posting on all of those at the same time for the same position and maintaining the communication with all of them. So if you want to start with one, I would recommend you start with LinkedIn. Next thing you want to do is, once you have your candidates that are applying to those positions, let's say you get 100 applicants just like us. Out of those 100 applications per day, you're going to be seeing a ratio of probably 20% of them are qualified enough to be considered to the next filter. So those are 20 candidates that you need to check. The best way to check these candidates is doing call calls. Call calling only takes 1 to 5 minutes. It's really great to see how people respond with out of the blue questions. It's great to test their English, and it's simply the best tool to see how people are and how people behave when they're not expecting a call. Now, I'm not saying you are going to call them out of the blue at any given time, no. Especially if you're calling Argentinians, I wouldn't recommend you call them after 8 p.m. Argentinian time, and I would actually recommend you only call them at lunch or at night. So, for example, if you're going to call somebody in Argentina, it's better to call them between noon Argentina and 2 p.m. Argentina, or 5 p.m. Argentina all the way to 7:30. Worst case scenario, 8 p.m. Argentina. Otherwise, they're probably not going to answer to you because they are pretty much doing things like working, driving, or anything else. They have a really strong mindset when it comes to answering phone calls, in our experience. So give them a call, see how they perform. In case that they cannot answer to your question, if they cannot understand, that's an easy way to unqualify a candidate because of not being able to understand. If they aren't able to articulate ideas or communicate with you that anything is going on, or they might just tell you, hey, this is not a good time, maybe can you give me a call tomorrow or something like that. If you see they're polite, if you see that they are actually able to communicate in English, that's great. That's most of the Argentinians anyway, so just highlight them. Good to go to the next step. So the next thing that you want to do is to do an ethical test. A shout out to Kasam for letting me know about this. I actually was part of this myself, and I had to do an ethical test when I was applying to his position that I assume I passed because, of course, I'm here today after working for him for about 2 years. So the ethical test consists on making sure this person is reliable. After you give him a call, let's say you have a conversation and you let him know, okay, hey, I just want to let you know you have passed the filter. I just wanted to talk to you because I'm about to send you an email with this test that consists on 3 hours of your time. I'm going to be paying you for those 3 hours that you're going to spend doing this test. It's not going to be a live test. It's going to be done asynchronous. So pretty much just do it whenever you want and send it, but I do need a due date or however you want to lay it out. That ethical test consists on sending a task, paying the money up front, and see what happens. If the person gets the email, gets the money, and disappears, it only costs you $15 to $30 to get rid of a bad apple. It's rare that this happens, but it's good to make sure that you have the certainty, or it's good to have the certainty that the person is good, to not take the money and run. If the person replies back to you requesting the additional details that you promised to send after you pay them, then that's a good candidate. If they disappear, then even if they answer, they never send anything to you, that's a bad candidate. So there's pretty much one of three things that can happen. They get the money and send back the test, which is what we want. They will tell you they prefer that to be paid after they perform the test. That happens one every 100 times. Or the rarest occasion is that they will just take the money and disappear. In which case, we already said it. It's better not to hire them. So we just got rid of a bad apple. The technical test is the actual test that you send them. So you give them money, you send them the test after they reply. If they disappear with the money, okay. If not, let's perform that test. You want something designed for the position that you're hiring. For example, when we're hiring people in finance, what we do is that we send them, let's say, some sort of reports of the last quarter, and we want them to be a dashboard, and we want them to present something to the board. Something that we know they're going to be doing on a daily basis for their customer. When we're hiring VAs, for example, for coaches, we ask them to do a GPT bot in order to mimic their boss's voice, so they can use it for social media, which is one of the most common tasks of VAs. So that's the task that we send them. All of these things you need to be mindful of, and you need to put a lot of thought into it, just so you know it's 3 hours of their time. It needs to be something that replicates what they're going to be doing, and most importantly, it's going to be something that you can feel comfortable checking, that you can feel comfortable testing yourself. It's going to be your regular day of in a life moving forward. Then after that, you interview them. You have a face-to-face meeting, Google Meet, Zoom, whatever you prefer. You just get to know if you like this person or not. You'll have a sense of it by the time you do the interview, because all the interactions that you have had. But in this time, you're going to have to ask the hard questions, like, what are your motivations? What career path are you following? Are we going to be a good fit? Are we going to be okay working together or not? What are your expectations? What do you want out of this? If you want too much money, I cannot afford you. Even if I like you, I'm not going to be able to pay it. So it's important to have these questions solved by this time, and interview is just your last chance to do so. Then you just do the negotiation. If you like the way the person behaved on the interview and you want to hire them, you just offer them something. This person is probably going to come back and ask you for a little bit more, nothing crazy, and just make your case. Say, hey, this is the best I can do. This is the best I can pay. It's a take it or leave it, or whatever you want to do. If you consider that their expectations are not so crazy, you can go ahead and approve them, and then the hiring is done. It's official. The start date is given. The onboarding process in your company starts, and it's all a lovely ever after this. So that's pretty much the process. Just a sneak peek of what we do here at Allsikes and how we do it. Of course, there's a lot more to it, and there's a lot of other places that we go to, like Eastern Europe, Africa, and stuff like that. But overall, you can get a sense of what we do just by watching this. I hope this was helpful. And again, in case you yourself need somebody to help you, do not hesitate to reach out. Go to allsikes.com/meet, and we will be more than happy to set up a meeting at your convenience in order to help you find your next big MVP for your team. Hope this was helpful, and I really hope to see you again soon. Later.